I'm Roman Yossi of the Nashville Predators.
I'm Matt Duchesne of the Nashville Predators.
I'm Justus Aros of the Nashville Predators.
I'm Ryan Johansson of the Nashville Predators.
You're listening to the Renegades of Puck
with Crazy Charlie.
Welcome to the bunker. Welcome to the Renegades of Puck podcast. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier. And before we get started on the No Half Step in Hockey coverage, let me direct you to our home website, renegadesofpuck.com. Once you go to renegadesofpuck.com, you'll learn everything you need to know about the show. And once you're good and educated about the show, you can click on that merchandise tab, and that's going to take you straight to our classic logo t-shirt, our Pride logo t-shirt, and all of our different special event t-shirts as well. Don't worry. All the gimmicks you come to know and love and expect from the Renegades of Puck are still available in our online store. Socks, throw pillows, wall art, bed sets, and so much more. After all, we've sold out so that you can buy in. Social media is of critical importance to an independent hockey operation, so listen up, Renegades. Here's how you can help support the cause. Please go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go to Instagram or TikTok, and give us a like, a follow, or a subscription. YouTube is a perfect place where you can follow along with the show so you can get the latest episodes of Renegades of Puck TV. Don't forget to turn on those notifications, and don't forget as well, on the audio side of things, you can find the Renegades of Puck podcast on virtually all platforms. Just search Renegades of Puck on your preferred platform today, or check out a couple of these different examples: Google, Stitcher, Spotify, even Amazon. You can find the Renegades of Puck podcast on all of those different outlets. Thanks to the full press NHL network. We're sure to appreciate everybody there behind the scenes doing all of the hard work to help get the Renegades of Puck in front of more listeners and viewers than at any point in show history, just recently surpassing 2 million downloads, replays for the year 2023. Stick taps, love, and respect to each and every one of you out there for helping us out. Venmo is how you can become a partner of the show or make a donation to the show. Just go to Venmo and search Renegades of Puck or scan the QR code currently on your screen. Thanks to generous Renegades just like you watching and listening out there, we've been able to make significant upgrades. Just go back and watch our recent best of series from the season and see where we were at from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Most modifications and those upgrades were made thanks to you, directly because of you out there. Every penny, every dollar donated to Renegades Puck goes directly to assisting in upgrades here at the bunker. So again, stick taps, love, and respect. We sure do appreciate it. Now, listen, I know it's time for the No Half Step in Hockey coverage, so let me get to the goods. It's time for operation number 753. That's right, it's time for show number 753. And at this moment in hockey history, we get to talk Milwaukee Admirals playoffs. Admirals have now completed game one of their series against the Manitoba Moose and have taken a 1-0 lead in the best of 5 second round series. We will recap that game in its entirety coming up here in just a matter of moments. The final score on that was 6-2, with the Milwaukee Admirals taking a 1-0 lead in the series. Game two coming up on Sunday afternoon. That, of course, will be in Manitoba again, and then the home ice advantage portion takes over as the Admirals and the Moose will switch to Milwaukee starting on Wednesday the 3rd, and that will be Milwaukee hosting the Manitoba Moose. If necessary, and at this point it is not necessary, Friday will be game 4, that is the 5th, and that will be Milwaukee hosting Manitoba again. And again, if necessary, game 5 would come next Saturday on the 6th, and that would be again Milwaukee versus Manitoba. That would be game 5 of the best of 5 series. Now, before we get into game 1 full game recap coming up here in just a matter of moments, let's go back and talk about what's going on in the Calder Cup playoff bracket at this point. We're on to the second round now, and we've gotten started in each of the 8 series. So let me give you the most recent update. Texas holds a 1-0 lead over Rockford in their best of 5 series. Of course, Milwaukee holds a 1-0 lead over Manitoba in their portion of the bracket on the western side. Calgary and Abbotsford are tied at 1 apiece. Coachella and Colorado also tied at 1 apiece. So over on the other side of the bracket, Hartford and Providence, it's Hartford leading that series 1-0. In the Charlotte and Hershey series, it is Hershey leading 1-0. Toronto and Utica sees Toronto leading the series 1-0. And in the Syracuse-Rochester series, already 3 games into this best of 5 series, 2-1 in favor of Syracuse at this point. Upcoming games on Saturday, Utica at Toronto in game 2, of course, Hershey at Charlotte also game 2, and Hartford at Providence in game 2. Milwaukee back on the ice on Sunday afternoon. Now, that gets you all caught up on the Calder Cup playoff bracket round 2. Now, we need to go back and talk about, most importantly, game 1 for the Milwaukee Admirals. After so much time off the ice, the Admirals finally had an opportunity to get back on the ice with so many players returning from the NHL level, coming back to the AHL level with so much time off. It was a rest versus rust conversation throughout the week leading up to game 1. How would it play out? Let's go back and find out. We call it the Rebirth Sports Full Game Recap, and it's coming up right now.
Hockey players are as unique as the game itself, and your uniform should be tailored to fit you. Rebirth Sports is your sports apparel tailor. From shells, bags, warm-ups, hats, hoodies, branding, and more, let Rebirth Sports be your custom hockey tailor.
And don't forget to tell them they do more than just hockey.
Rebirth Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Rebirth Sport, a match made in hockey.
We go back to April the 28th of the year 2023 when the Milwaukee Admirals were taking on the Manitoba Moose in Game 1 of their best-of-5 series. Coach Carl Taylor deploys his lines in the following way. Schneider, Jankowski, and Tomasino make up your first line for the Milwaukee Admirals. Sherwood, Sanford, and Evangelista. Leonard, McCarron, and Rushoff. Huntington, Angelo, and Afanaseyev make up your fourth line. Gravel and Stastny are your top defensive pairing. Delgado and Thompson, Willsby, and Gross make up the rest of your defensive pairings. And Askarov gets the start in net for the Milwaukee Admirals. And that's where we start. Just 23 seconds into the first period, Askarov comes up with a save on Harkins, the first shot on goal of the series. It would be at 42 seconds when Cormier would come with save on Willsby. That would be the Admirals' first shot on game. 1:35 into the first period. Delgado's first goal of the season gets Milwaukee on the board over Manitoba, 1-0. It was McCarron's drop pass leading to a long shot that finds its way to the back of the net past Cormier. At 4:28 of the first period, Askarov comes up with a save on Meyer. At 5:58, Bongiovanni's off to the box. 2 minutes for high sticking. That's when the number one power play in the AHL in the regular season takes over for the Milwaukee Admirals, and Sanford is converting for the Admirals. His first goal of the playoffs gives the Admirals a 2-0 lead over the Manitoba Moose. It was a one-timer from the high slot, barred down. Just a slick ripper right here by Sanford. At 8:19, though, the Admirals are not done. It would be Huntington jamming the puck into the net on the rebound follow-up. He found it along the goal line before anybody else could. His first goal of the playoffs gives Milwaukee a 3-0 lead before we get to the first television timeout and break. In the first game of the series in the playoffs, the Admirals have managed to put 3 goals in. That's the end of the night for Cormier. He's out, and Holm is back in. Holm, of course, had plenty of regular season experience against this Milwaukee Admirals team. 10:15 into the first period now. Askarov comes up with a save on Bongiovanni. At 10:34, McCarron off to the box. 2 minutes for tripping a very strong PK. As a matter of fact, the Ads had the best chance by Sanford shorthanded. 16:19, Angelo's off the box. 2 minutes for interference. The PK, just simply incredible right there. Would not give up a single shot on goal against. We hit the end of the first period. The Manitoba Moose are out shooting Milwaukee Admirals 11-8, but the Admirals are leading 3-0. Admirals kind of shut it down there towards the end of the first period, and we'll see a lot of that here in the beginning of the second period as we go all the way to the clean sheet. We're all the way to 3:19 in. That's where we find Harkins for Manitoba on a breakaway, and he goes 5-hole for the finish, beating Askarov. His first goal of the playoffs gets Manitoba on the board for the first time. Milwaukee now with a 3-1 lead in this game. At 3:19 of the second period, which is exactly the same time the goal was scored, which means this took place on the face-off before they could resume play, we saw a whole big mess start to break out. Toninato and Angelo are off the box. 2 minutes for roughing. That leads to a 4-on-4. Those two were lined up to take the face-off, and they kept headbutting each other and leaning in really hard. That led to, of course, a face-off dispute, if you will, and both players ended up in the box. Now, in the 4-on-4 scenario, we see Ford pick up a penalty. 2 minutes for hooking. That leads to a 4-on-3 for 37 seconds. But then we see Lundmark pick up a penalty, 2 minutes for tripping. So now we have a 5-on-3 for 1:23 in favor of the Admirals. And the Admirals were just buzzing when this penalty was called, and the Admirals had total control of the puck. So I don't understand why the whistle was blown at this point in time, but it was. And so we have to move on since this is just a game recap. Gross would pick up a 5-on-3 goal for the Admirals, his first of the playoffs. It was a one-timer off of Evangelista slick cross zone feed. It gives Milwaukee a 4-1 lead, and the special teams extravaganza finally would come to its conclusion in a couple of minutes. 7:58 of the second period. It's Rushov's first goal of the playoffs. It's a wrist shot surprise from out of nowhere, giving the Milwaukee Admirals a 5-1 lead over the Manitoba Moose at 8:54 of the second period. Askarov comes with save on Limoges at 10:03. Gross, his second goal of the game, second goal of the playoffs. It's a wrist shot off the rush for the Milwaukee Admirals. And at this point, literally everything they throw at the net is finding its way in. 6-1 in favor of the Milwaukee Admirals here in the second period. It would be a long stretch before anything would happen again, as it seemed like the Manitoba Moose were stunned, maybe a standing 8 count for them right here, and the Admirals kind of took their foot off the gas right here. So Askarov comes up with a save at 17:27 on Stewart, but at 19:16, I don't like this play. Torgerson comes up with his first goal of the playoffs for the Manitoba Moose. He simply fired it in from the red line, and he beat Askarov glove side. It's a goal that should never happen, but if it's going to happen, it better happen when you have a 5-goal lead. It was a bad goal to give up from the red line just before the end of the second period. Momentum goals. First minute of a period, last minute of a period. I always say they carry more weight, they carry more momentum than other goals do, and this one may do just that, even with the score being what it is. 6-2 in favor of Milwaukee in 40 minutes. Manitoba out shooting Milwaukee 19-18 after 40 minutes. Now, we go into the clean sheet. We hit the third period, and it is the Moose, and they are buzzing. They are generating pressure. They picked up that cheap goal at the end of the second. Now, they're using that momentum to buzz all over the ice. They're all over the place. Askarov is getting the work. We go to 3:44 of the third period, and that's where all hell breaks loose behind the play. Manitoba was putting some heavy pressure on. The puck goes down the ice, and then suddenly we hear a whistle. We pan the camera back down the ice, and behind the play, we see a lengthy scrum breaking out. It would lead to numerous penalties, and ultimately, saving you some of the work here, it would lead to a Manitoba Moose power play. Now, this would also then lead to McCarron taking a 2-minute slashing penalty, leading to a 5-on-3 for 1 minute and 21 seconds for the Manitoba Moose. And I've got to tell you right here, I've come to like Michael McCarron quite a bit with his time with the Nashville Predators. This was an irresponsible, and I rarely use the words dumb or stupid because players make mistakes in the heat of battle, but this was preventable. This was a retaliation / 200 feet away from your own net when you were already on the PK. Put the team in a bad spot right here, but that's exactly why you have Askarov. He comes up with numerous saves during this shorthanded sequence. As a matter of fact, after this power play was over for Manitoba, the shots on goal for the third period alone, 12-2 in just 7 minutes. 12 shots on goal in just 7 minutes for Manitoba. Now, we go to 9:47 of the third period, and Askarov is coming with a save on Meyer. And Milwaukee, at this point, I made the note, they're trading shots for seconds. It's simply not the best strategy. They have largely closed down their offensive side of things and are just now trying to bleed the clock and hoping Askarov can continue to do the work. And at 17:08, I make the comment that he continues to do the work. He comes up with a big save on Chisholm and continues being, frankly, overworked in this period. It would continue that way for the final couple of minutes of the game, and Milwaukee would close things out 6-2. 6-2 victory for the Milwaukee Admirals in Game 1 of the series. So in the rest versus rust debate, rest obviously wins out because the Admirals came out buzzing in this game, had a 3-0 lead, and frankly never looked back for a second. Did they take their foot off the gas in the third period? They sure did, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the analysis portion of things. But the only thing that matters at the end of the day is that the Milwaukee Admirals won this game, and they won it in convincing fashion, 6-2. One bad goal for Askarov, completely nullified by the victory. They were outshot, though. Milwaukee outshot by Manitoba 37-24. That means Askarov had to come up with 18 saves in the third period. Now listen, in a close game, that's asking too much of your goaltender. In a blowout, it's asking too much of your goaltender. You shouldn't put the goaltender under that much intense pressure. But Askarov proved he was up to the task, and it was excellent to watch him. He made some incredible saves. Of the 35 saves that he did make in this game. There was at least a half a dozen that were, last second leg kickouts or shoulder moves or very, very, very slight movements that were able to come away with, frankly, otherworldly saves. Askarov looked great in this game. So rest versus rust. Rest wins. Milwaukee Admirals win 1-0 lead in the best-of-5 series. 3 games in the series, 3, 4, and 5 on home ice. Game 2 coming up on Sunday afternoon. The Admirals can take a stranglehold on this series. Remember, second year in a row, these 2 Central Division rivals have met in the playoffs. Last year, the Admirals secured the victory in 5 games, their first playoff series victory since 2011. Admirals buzzsaw last night, looking to do more than just win a first-round series against Manitoba this year. But we talk about Game 2 coming up next. We also go back, we finish analysis, and we give you the box score opinions and the Renegades of Puck all in the trenches. That was the Rebirth Sports full game recap. Back in a moment with all the rest.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Tracy, owner-operator of Strong Style Fitness. And that's me and my training assistant, Rizzo. And we are here to bring you fitness that meets you where you are by offering circuit classes, bar-inspired classes, Tabata workouts, boot camps, guided stretching, and more, all taught by a certified personal trainer, me. To learn more, go to our website, strongstylefit.com. Subscribe on YouTube at Strong Style Fitness. Follow on social media at Strong Style Fit. But most importantly, let's get you moving. It doesn't matter if it's your first workout or you've been doing it for years. Strong Style Fitness has the workout that meets you on your journey and helps you along the path to a happier, healthier life. I understand where you've been, what you were going through, and where you were going, and I want to take you there. We'll see you on the mat. Mwah.
Askarov picks up the victory in this game. 35 out of 37 is his final stat line, but listen to this. 18 out of 18 in the third period. It is too much work. Goaltender should not have to face 18 shots against in a period. The Admirals shut it down a little bit too early, took their foot off the gas a little bit too early, and relied on Askarov. And, when you have a goaltender that is that good, sometimes you do rely on him a little bit too much. 35 out of 37 to end the victory, 18 out of 18 in the third period. The breakaway goal through the 5-hole, okay, the defense should not have allowed the player to slip behind them and get so much time and space. So that one's okay. A breakaway goal, sometimes that's going to happen. The red line goal, though, it's not okay. I don't like that play. It's a lack of focus. It's a lack of concentration. Your team is in the position to blow out the opponent, and you're doing so. I just felt it was a lack of focus and a lack of concentration. A young player still. We see the results, we see the records, we see the numbers for Askarov, and sometimes we still forget that he is a very young player at this level, and I think that this was just one of those goals that we will forgive, we will forget, especially considering the results, but in the moment that it happened, I was quite unhappy with the situation. But if that's all that I can find to pick apart in this particular game, then Askarov obviously had himself one hell of a hockey game out there. Let's talk about some of the other performances in this game. Gross, 2 goals and an assist for 3 points. That led the Admirals. The 2 goals led the Admirals as well. 6 shots on goal led the team. It was a dominant performance from the blue line. Now listen, Gross is penned in with Wilsby on the 3rd defensive pairing, and he's putting up a 2-goal, 1 assist, 6 shots on goal night. I felt like he was just highly noticeable every time he was out there on the ice, offensively, defensively, everywhere. 200 feet of fury all night long from Gross. It was a highly impressive performance and a dominant performance, and we've seen him in spot duty with the Nashville Predators come up and also have a 2-goal game and also have a very impressive performance. I'm very, very happy to see this prospect continue with the progression that he is showing for the Admirals. Now, we spent a lot of time in the series preview talking about the players that are returning from Nashville. There was a list of 7. Of course, the Admirals played a huge part in the Nashville Predators' late season run towards a playoff spot that they fell just short of, allowing all of those players to return to Milwaukee. So I made the notation right here. Sherwood, Jankowski, McCarron, and Evangelista, those 4 players all returned from the Nashville Predators right here at the end of the season. 6 assists, from those 4 players. So between those 4 players returning, 6 assists. The Nashville call-ups, well, they showed up. And when you take a look at the top 6 of the Admirals in this game, 5 of the top 6 were returning players from the Nashville Predators. Jankowski, Tomasino, Sherwood, Sanford, and Evangelista. Tomasino, really the only one not getting on the board in this game as far as forwards that got significant amounts of ice time. So, again, highly impressive from the Nashville call-ups for the Milwaukee Admirals and how they were able to help out in this game. 6 assists, 6 total points. That is highly impressive. You have to give Dale Gaizo some credit. Sometimes things slip under the radar when a team scores 6 goals. A goal and assist in this game for 2 points. Again, your second pair defenseman putting up 2 points in this game. So your second and third pair defense actually contributed quite a bit to the offensive side of things. So again, impressive. And I didn't want to let his performance or his efforts slide too far under the radar. So Del Gaizo, 2 points, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in this game. And trading shots for seconds in the third period, I dislike it. I dislike that type of mentality. In a playoffs, in a regular season game, it's bad enough. When you take your foot off the gas, bad things can happen. And in the modern hockey game as it is played, the NHL all the way down, there is no such thing as an insurmountable lead any longer. You can't just take your foot off the gas and just let things happen. You know, when it went to 5-on-3 and it was a 6-2 game, it got a little bit nervous for just a second. But it did get a little bit nervous, even with a 4-goal lead. That's why I say trading shots for seconds on the clock is not a great strategy. 18 shots against Milwaukee in the third period. Askarov coming up strong throughout the third period. I dislike that mentality more than anything in a playoff series. It allowed, I feel, the Manitoba Moose to gain momentum at the end of a game where they had no chance of coming back and winning, but generating the amount of buzz, the amount of offensive zone time, the amount of shots on goal. It just gets their players' confidence up, and it gets them already set up for Game 2, which will be on their home ice. And, of course, in a 5-game series now, 1-0, your back is already against the wall. So I didn't like the mentality or the foot off the gas style of the third period. But, again, when you win 6-2 and you still have this many things that you can critique, something's gone very right for the Admirals. So there is definitely things that can be improved. That third period overall effort, just trying to bleed the clock, I don't like it. I know it can look rough sometimes when a team piles on the goals. If the Admirals had gone to 8-9 goals by the end of the third period, that might have looked rough, might have given some motivation the other way. So it's tough sometimes in a blowout, but I just didn't like the bleeding the clock and putting Askarov under so much extra pressure there at the end of the game. That's going to wrap up my portion of the analysis, but the Renegades of Puck are in the trenches. From ontheforecheck.com, we've got Brian Baston. He's got the charts you need to see and the numbers you need to know. He runs the Renegade Analytics desk, and he's here to bring the jam. He's the one and only Brian Baston.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. The Renegades of Puck are back in the trenches on game day, and the Milwaukee Admirals, now refreshed and replenished with players back from the NHL, opened up Game 1 of the second round of the Calder Cup playoffs with a dominant 6-2 win over Manitoba. Yaroslav Askarov had a great game, obviously, with the exception of that second goal from 90 feet away, but my player of the game was also the official first star of the game, and he's the topic of tonight's One Big Stat. Defenseman Jordan Gross earned the first star of the game with 2 goals, 1 assist, and a game-high 6 shots on goal. Now, Gross played 53 games in the AHL this season, picking up 10 goals and 38 points, and despite not being as solid defensively, Gross is kind of built in the mold of the many previous Nashville Blue Liners. He's aggressive with the puck, and he's not afraid to join the rush and create offense, especially on special teams. Of his 10 goals this season, 5 were on the power play, and he had 1 shorthanded goal as well. He did play 15 games with the Nashville Predators this season, and Gross was probably my personal favorite of all of the AHL defensemen that were called up to bolster the defense corps. He picked up 3 goals in those 15 games, shooting at 12.5%. Now, his profile in the AHL fits his relatively small NHL sample size as well. Despite being right at replacement level in goals above replacement, his strongest trait was his ability to create goals both for himself and his teammates. The Admirals demolished any worry of being the long rest, making them rusty, and they didn't need the returning NHL players to do it. The Admirals made the playoffs, after all, on the backs of players like Askarov and Jordan Gross, But when those guys like Philip Tomasino and Luke Evangelista do start to take over games, it'll just make the road to the Calder Cup that much more difficult for Milwaukee's opponents. And that's tonight's one big stat. Charlie?
The digital environment can be quite intimidating, time-consuming, and cumbersome, especially with all those other areas that need attention at your business. And that's why Stripe Digital Solutions is here to help. I know, because that's exactly what Stripe Digital Solutions did for me and the Renegades of Puck. From designing my home website and helping me create my merchandise to special event posters, brand building, and social media management. But it's not just that, it's so much more. Stripe Digital Solutions has helped me every step of the way. From startup to full-time operation, Stripe Digital Solutions has been there to assist and advise every single step of the journey. In today's fast-paced world, the path to success is having a strong digital partner, and nobody is better in the trenches than Brandy and Stripe Digital Solutions. Get the solution before it's even a problem with Stripe Digital Solutions. Let's take a quick look at the box score, and then we'll go ahead and head on out of the bunker for today and get ourselves all set up for Game 2. Your goal scorers for the Milwaukee Admirals: Jordan Gross led the team with 2 in this game. Del Gaizo with 1. Jimmy Huntington also with 1. Zach Sanford with 1. And Austin Rushoff with 1 goal. In the assists category, multiple players achieved multiple assists. Let's start with Luke Evangelista, 2 assists in this game. Also, Afanasiev had 2 assists. Jankowski had 2 assists. Kiefer Sherwood chipped in with 1. Cole Schneider chipped in with 1. Michael McCarron had an assist. Jordan Gross had an assist. And Mark Del Gaizo also picked up an assist. When it comes to shots on goal, it was Jordan Gross leading with 6 shots on goal. John Leonard chipped in with 4 shots on goal. Mark Del Gaizo had 3 shots on goal. And Adam Wilsby also had 3 shots on goal. Your penalty minutes leader for the game was Anthony Angelo. His head-butting face-off dispute led to 1 penalty, picked up another minor, and also picked up a 10-minute misconduct after the massive scrum. So 14 total penalty minutes in this game. When it comes to in net, Askarov 35 out of 37. Just a couple other quick numbers that I wanted to point out. Shots on goal now for Game 1 and for the series, Manitoba leading in that statistic 37-24. And in the power play, it was the Admirals 2 of 3 in Game 1 and Manitoba 0 for 4 in Game 1. Not the total difference maker, but the number 1 power play in the AHL is definitely already stepping up with 2 goals in the first game of the series. That's going to do it for the box score. We'll continue adding to the series-wide numbers as we report on the box score, and we will, of course, continue updating you on individual game stats from game to game. That's going to do it for operation number 753. Game 1, just incredible. We sat around and we waited. The Milwaukee Admirals, of course, finished in second place in the regular season, and high expectations. Carl Taylor, potentially the Nashville Predators' next head coach, still to be determined. Right now, not the time for the discussion during the Calder Cup playoffs, but the Milwaukee Admirals came out of the box absolutely flying in this first game. With the amount of talent they've added from Nashville at the end of the season, the amount of talent that Milwaukee already had. This was already a team that was competing for the top spot in the West, and they had most of their roster up in Nashville the final month and a half or so of the season. So this Admirals team has come out of the box absolutely flying, looking to make a long run in the Calder Cup tournament. But you cannot do that without seizing this series. Game 1 over Manitoba looked very different than last year's Game 1, Game 2. Last year's series, incredibly close, except for the middle of the series when the series returned to Manitoba. This year, Milwaukee comes out, wins 6-2. The most goals the Admirals have scored against, as a matter of fact, the most goals either team has scored, they played 8 times in the regular season. Now, that game in Game 1 makes 9 times this season. No team had scored 6 goals in the series this season, so the Milwaukee Admirals are accomplishing things they had not done during the regular season and going 4-2-1-1 against the Moose and outscoring them 26-21. Well, this Game 1 performance is even more impressive than all of that. Again, the most goals that anyone has scored in the season series this season long. 9th time they played already. They're guaranteed to play at least 2 more times. You cannot back off at this point. You have an opportunity to seize the series. It's a best of 5. You're up 1 game to none, being up 2 games to none, and then heading back home for games 3, possibly 4, possibly 5. All of those games would be on home ice. You have a chance to take a stranglehold on the series and head back to Milwaukee, where the Admirals are a very, very strong team on home ice. A great performance overall in Game 1. There were things that could be discussed, things that could be worked out, and yet the team still won by 4 goals on the road to open a series. That's about as good as things can go for Carl Taylor, Askarov, and the Milwaukee Admirals. It's some exciting times for the Milwaukee Admirals. They've got a great squad. Last year, making it to the second round against the juggernaut Chicago Wolves. This year, who knows what could be on the horizon. Cannot wait to talk about it here in the bunker. We'll be back on Sunday to recap Game 2 and preview Game 3 of this series. Will it be tied at 1, or will the Admirals have a stranglehold on the series? Watch the game, come back, get the analysis, and find out everything from the Renegades of Puck. Man, it is great to be talking playoff hockey. Thank you so much for being in the bunker with the Renegades of Puck and jumping in the trenches for operation number 753. It is now complete, so now I say thank you for your time, thank you for your viewership, and thank you, period. Stick taps, love, and respect. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier.